Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say hello and welcome. Welcome to a fresh, brand new edition of the program, ASHFORD GARLEY Live on Brace Radio Africa. Today is Tuesday, May the 2nd, 2023. And we come to you from Lansdowne, PA, folks. As always, we want to give him the praise. We want to give him honor. We want to magnify his name. Don't tell me he has not done anything for you. You should be grateful. He woke you up this morning. You are out and about. You went to work this morning. Others can't get up. Others are on hospital beds. Say thank you. Acknowledge him. Call his name. Thank you, Jesus. In the name of Jesus, we've given you thanks. Well, the mastermind, the doctor of love, the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of radio. Dresse tu payege, Zebondo Ranaja, Kwame Otraji, Boro Blay, Parekoyo Boro Sei, Bediaku, we play. Second, we are Pelea. Oh man, Groba, quick on your secret. Africa's media do it extraordinary. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. As for the giant, that now you know me calling. Welcome. And it's time to say hi to Miss Eastman. V. Wissett is also in the building tonight. Hi, but Martha Doki. I hope you all are doing fine tonight. Please share the video, invite a few friends so that we can together talk about Liberia. Oh, man. Gentlemen, where is Lexi Brooks Roberts? Where is Joel Dennis? I'd like to begin with the pastor Idatu Sadit. Welcome to the show, bro.
Well, greetings to all of you wonderful panelists. Greetings to Liberians. What a wonderful day I had at work today. And I'm glad to be here once more to talk about our beloved country, Liberia. Thanks for having me.
Dr. James T. Fisk.
Thank you, Ashford. Welcome to you. Welcome to Reverend Datus, Addie. Welcome to our viewers out there. It is a pleasure. And thanks for taking the time off your busy schedule. We hope we can have yet another promising and explosive edition of our interaction today. Thank you.
Okay, well, gentlemen, let us just jump straight into this one. Last Friday, we saw the former vice president, the Ambassador Joseph Human Boycott, name his running mate, and this news still continued to be in the ears and mouths of political enthusiasts. Including several other media outlets, not only in the diaspora, but in Liberia as well. Now, the question to you guys tonight is opposition's unity. Is it still possible in the light of a boycott decision to name his running mate? Let us begin with Pastor Addy.
Well, absolutely. Actually, I still think it's possible. Politics is very fluid, very dynamic. My only advice to those who are celebrating the victory of our potential president's pick The Honorable Jeremiah Cohn, I want to encourage them to be as patient as much as possible with those who aren't as excited about this ticket, but rather extend a hand of friendship, a hand of comfort and solidarity to be able to unite around this potential victory in light of the personalities of the Honorable Joseph Imam Boyka and Jeremiah Cohn. I've looked at some posts. I still see surrogates. They are pretty upset and they were attacking one another and they're making statements that are quite frankly incendiary that may potentially affect the unity we need for a sound and resounding victory against this incumbent president who has traveled again. So I certainly believe that there can be an opposition unity that is pending around this potential candidate, Honorable Boyka.
Dr. Fisk, do you still see the possibility of opposition unity?
The thing is, you need to ask yourself, what kind of unity are we talking about? Are we talking structural unity? If we're talking structural unity, I don't see it. If you talk about unity around a common messaging, that's more realistic, and it would be like playing mature politics. The reason for that is that at the end of the day, excuse me, the opposition has a singular goal. Okay, goal number one is the removal of the incumbent. So how is that possible? Is one of the best ways possible is if you have a messaging, okay, that things are not working in the interest of the nation, and it's best that there's a focus. As we speak, I believe Mr. Weah has traveled or is about to travel to watch the coronation of King Charles III and all that kind of stuff, while the nation continues to linger in filth, while the nation continues to linger in unemployment, while you have unsolved murders and joblessness, amongst others. So, why would you leave all of these, all of the ability to attack all of these issues? Why would you leave these things undone? And then you have messages attributed to Mr. Cummings, something about cutlass on Facebook, and now wanting to give the cutlass to Mr. Boyka because he may not be an efficient farmer and the rest of it. One thing Mr. Cummings need to remind himself is that instead of you thinking about giving the cutlass, someone already has the cutlass. So first thing first, you need to be thinking about taking the cutlass from the person before you even start to think about whether it should go to person B or C. That hasn't even happened yet, and they are squabbling over things that don't make sense. And once the leaders have set the tone, you have their followers, you have the sympathizers, and the rest of it continuing to spread the message of division, which is sad.
Well, still on the possibility of the opposition coming together, Idatus, following the announcement of Jeremiah Jeremiah Cohn as the running mate to JMB, uh, obviously the political leader of the Liberty Party was not happy. Henry Kolstad, who comes from the All Liberian Party, and his boss Benin Ayue, were also not happy. Not only that, the following week, Prince Johnson showed up on a local talk show and started to attack Yomli Kanka uh, in a very negative way. And it didn't go down too well with her. And the next thing you know, Prince Johnson came back the next day and apologized, knowing that this lady was already, not happy because she was not chosen. I mean, she was anticipating to be the running mate of JMB, and she was already going through that, and he came out swinging in an attack. You call that unity? You call that bringing people together?
Well, when someone gets married to another person, everything is not all and well. You are still trying to find yourself so that you can become one in physical and vision. So, quite frankly, I empathize with Senator Lawrence. I empathize with my brother Henry Costa. The truth remains that all of the surrogates, all of the supporters of JNB, ought to empathize with them. These people are human beings. They were actually hoping that they will be chosen. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Only one rescue tool we can have. So I can empathize with them. People should give them time to ponder over that decision and not attack them. I was one of those who were very oppositional and condemnative of Mr. Johnson's attack on the senator because we still need her. She is still a part of the collaboration. She has not told the world that she will not support GNB. Neither has Mr. Costa said that. So any attempt to, send aspersions against them is not a reflection of the unity that we need at this time. Also, when the Honorable Johnson did that, he was criticized for that and eventually apologized for his actions, and hopefully he will not repeat that again. Every vote, every political leader is important in this process to be able to have the change that we need.
Dr. Fisk, what do you make of Prince Johnson's outburst on Senator Kanga following the decision by JMB to name his running mate?
The thing is, you have to understand that Prince Johnson comes from a military background, and as a military person, he's always a military person, despite the fact he says I'm a pastor. But of course, he's looking at the possibility that he can be a pastor and still be a military person. I say this to say that this guy is a tactician. This guy never does anything by mistake. Okay, so people need to be asking themselves, why is it he decided to go after Yombli Kanga? He could have gone after a number of other persons, but why did he select Yombli? You have to look at it within the broader context of the possibility of a second round. Like Reverend Datus was saying, if and when a second round comes, every vote becomes extremely important. Is Prince Johnson trying to juxtapose himself so that he becomes the ultimate kingmaker? In other words, he puts himself in the position to be able to demand from WIA and demand from the opposition on the other side because he's muddied the water so much among all the opposition leaders. So which brings me to the point that if you are seeking the highest office in the land, you are supposed to be extremely astute, in other words, politically astute, to be able to think 10 steps ahead of Mr. Prince Johnson, try to understand why he's making the utterances he's making. And you as a political leader who is vying to take care of an entire nation, you should be able to tactically and in a timely manner address that issue so that it doesn't spill over. And when I say spill over to those people who will be voting. Maybe for them at that level, they have the maturity to come back and readjust on the chessboard. Well, what about the members? How do you then convince your members if you have created so much acrimony among various members within the opposition community? So people need to be asking themselves, especially those leaders that are vying for the presidency, what is Prince Johnson really up to?
Well, I will hear from you both following this commercial break, and you both are going to weigh in on who is Jeremiah Cohn. When we come back, don't go away, folks. This is ASHFORD GARLEY Live on British Radio Africa.
G Lorenzo, G Grace. Hems vocal, Liberia number one vocal, Liberia number one, right? Okay.
The phrase, a new sheriff is in town, does not only belong to law enforcement. How about the introduction of Liberia's premier vodka, a quality and customized liquor for all occasions? Try the flavor of your choice. Ham's Vodka, Ham's Honey, Ham's Bitter, and Ham's Original Vodka. Ham's Vodka has no hangover. That's why they say Papa drink Mama happy. Ham's Vodka is sold in all stores, shops, supermarkets, and entertainment centers in Liberia. For wholesale, contact Ham's Vodka at 0777 001114, 0777 000 We can also be reached via social media on Facebook and IG at Ham's Vodka or www.hansvodka.com. In the United States, please contact Hans North America Incorporated at 610-543-9289, 484-888-1622, 484-755-8411.
Hans Vodka is approved by the U.S. federal government. Hans Vodka brings out the real man in you.
I tell you, in my boy, in my blood. Every time when I stay on the block.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're back, and excuse my voice. This is Ashford Garley Live, and of course, we're coming your way from Lansdowne, PA. If you're celebrating your birthday today, we'd like to say congratulations, and let us sure hope that you live to see many, many more birthdays to come. And we'd also like to say hi to V. Wese, Anthony Gay, Thurmans, Nate, Kanka D. Shedrick, Sieta Tengwe. Thanks the other day for your contribution, Sieta. We appreciate you. Amiama Conan is also here tonight. Well, Letty Brooks Roberts, if you can please unmute your mic to say hi to out there, we appreciate it. If not, perhaps you're still busy doing something. Letty Brooks, are you
Yes,
there? Okay.
I'm here, but I'm busy doing something. Good
Uh,
evening, everyone. I'll join you shortly.
okay. She's doing some behind the scenes stuff for British Radio Africa. Very hard working co host
Thank
on
you.
Ashford Got It Live. Idatus Ade, who is Jeremiah Bancon.
Well, so far, Ashma, as I've come to, study about this man and read about him, he's a man of very humble beginning, born under the union of Adam Sunday Coon and Esther Micah Coon. And his father is from Sino County. He was born in Nimba. His mother is Gio. He speaks like 3 or 4 languages, dialects, Basso, Kru, Gribble, Gio, and Minor. He's a young man that is quite a representation of the Liberian experience, from, being separated from his parents during the war to living on his own and selling fish and drugs in buckets to make a living, sleeping in the kennels of a fancy man that took him, and eventually going to find his father and mother, and yet have a passion for education. Someone who had gone to school, graduated from high school in the midst of wartime Liberia, and as well as going to Cunton University and obtaining his bachelor's degree in business administration. And he's currently studying, to get his master's in finance. This young man, as I've read on about him, has done several things for Liberians before becoming a senator. He built for himself a business empire from drugstores, hotels to building material, real estate. And through that reality, he was able to initiate different construction that benefited the people, such as building a 116-bedroom clinic in the city of Nimba County. So he's definitely a philanthropist, a man who was encouraged by his peers to run because of what he was already doing in his community and continues to do as representative, now senator. He's quite a spectacular story of the Liberian experience, an epitome of success.
James?
Well, you can also add to that resume that he became the standard bearer of the movement for democracy and reconstruction, I believe. And that is supposed to be a political party that was formulated by Prince Johnson. So in other words, the friendship between Mr. Kuhn and Mr. Prince Johnson goes way back as well. And so while a number of political divides are ongoing in Liberia, what we can comfortably say at this point is that Prince Johnson was able to coalesce members of his MDR around the fact that he was able to win for them the vice presidential nomination under Joseph Boakai, which is a major feat for the political party. Now, initially, when we heard that Mr. Kuhn had been elected as the running mate for Joseph Boakai, one of those things I expressed was the possibility that, God forbid, something happened to Mr. Boakai. The speculation from me as an individual is that Prince Johnson can easily become vice president under him. So if you look at how this thing is structured, Mr. Prince Johnson is not just just a son of Nimba County, but he's also a person that I have been able to ordain as standard bearer of my political party. So in other words, Mr. Kuhn owes Mr. Prince Johnson big time in so many areas. It's Mr. Prince Johnson who has been able, he owes his political development to Prince Johnson. Okay. So then we ask ourselves, what's the price Mr. Kun is willing to pay? One of those things I know is that when Prince Johnson gave the endorsement to relinquish that thing to Mr. Kun, knowing fully well that he may not be as popular, one of those things that Liberians ought to have understood was that this whole thing about war crimes, assuming that Mr. Boyka becomes president, becomes mute for the next 6 years.
Well, it had to added. How does the coming in of Jeremiah Combs help JMB and the Unity Party against George Weah in the coming election?
Well, certainly politics is about numbers. And if you actually look at our political space, Nimba County has really been a tipping point for a political victory for any of the candidates who've managed to pursue that region of the country. And quite frankly, Jeremiah Cohen and the people of Nimba remain resolved to supporting Joseph Boyka. But let me just clarify some things here. You know, there's this tendency that he is so aligned or tied to Prince Johnson. Let me remind the public, as well as my panelists, that when Mr. Cohen built his hotel, the hotel that was called the Jackie Hotel, it was Joseph Boyka who cut the ribbons. Let me remind the public that at the time when Prince Johnson was supporting George Weah, it was Jeremiah Coon who stood with Joseph N. Boyka as the chairman in Nimba County for Unity Party. So let us not make any mistake. He's an independent thinker. And I can certainly empathize with those who are of the speculation politically, which is allowing politics, that, Mr. Johnson will be the de facto president. That is the wildest speculation I've seen. When you look at our history in our Liberian warfare, all of the warring parties became political parties, and Liberians voted for them. But the truth remains that nobody was stringing Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf when she was president, and potentially nobody was stringing George Weah as his president now. So I can understand speculation. It is a serious distraction that poses fear. I believe Mr. Kun is an independent individual, and he's had relationship with Joseph Boyka for a very long time.
What about this allegation that Jeremiah Combs voted 99.9% with CDC as a senator? Where's the change?
Well, you just stated allegation. I certainly hope that the Senate will begin to keep a record so that the public will know what is the definition of 99% with the seditions. The fact remains the budget is passed for allocations to different sectors of our society. So if that is the 99% of the time that people are calculating, then, I have to see the evidence on what or how many bills have been passed or how many times, Mr. Cohen has voted with this government. So it remains clear that our Senate needs to keep a record of substantive and substantial voting processes for that allegation to be substantiated.
Dr. Fix, from Ellen Johnson to George Weah, Prince Johnson is notoriously known as a guy who would pay for play. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why he was sanctioned by the United States. What does he need from Joseph Boyka in return with the newly formed love?
Like I've always said, what is Mr. Boyka's biggest request, biggest concern is to become president of Liberia. What is Mr. Johnson's biggest request, biggest concern is that there should be no war crimes court, okay, whether in Liberia or anywhere else for that matter, okay? So Mr. Johnson is a tactician. If Mr. Johnson went ahead and gave his endorsement, and his endorsement followed up by a reassurance of a person from his party as going in with Mr. Joseph Boyka, Mr. Boyka must have relinquished a lot. And the most obvious thing Mr. Boyka had to relinquish was the possibility of any war crimes court. But the bigger question we need to ask ourselves is this. Does Mr. Kun represent continuity or does he represent change? In my view, I think Mr. Kun represents continuity And the reason for that is that Mr. Kuhn has been in the Senate for the last, 5, 6 years. And he's one of many, 73 senators, or I don't know how many senators are there, who've been making laws that have not been working in the interest of the Liberian people. CDC is supposed to have a pro-poor agenda, but members of the legislature are taking pay that are unrealistic given the economic circumstances of Liberia. Like I continue to say, there's not one single factory that have been constructed by the Liberian government, and the people that came, your guest you had yesterday was talking about, oh well, this thing, it has to be a gradual process, but the salary that has been maintained hasn't been a gradual process. So, long story short, there may be a number of candidates in the race that represent change. Joseph Boakai, for all intents and purposes, does not represent that change, which is one of the reasons people have problem with that ticket. So should we also not start to give those candidates who will represent a departure from the kind of politically sick signer syndrome that Liberia is suffering from, is another question that we need to ask.
Do you agree that Kuhn coming in alongside Joseph Boakai is government continuity?
Oh, it's big time continuity.
I'm speaking to the Datu side now.
Okay.
Well, so I am quite frankly having a conflict in that statement. Number one, Joseph Boakai doesn't represent change. On what basis? I haven't seen any facts concerning that. And Kuhn represents continuity. Continuity of what? When in fact, we've long advocated that we need a young generation to lead. And Mr. Boakai, in his infinite wisdom, decided that he will take someone who has the Liberian experience, a business enthusiast, one who's built from the ground up, and who is about to be a part of a vision. So I don't understand how that continuity can be that of the same, but in fact, the vision of the Honorable Boakai is quite different from this current government's vision. So just because you are a part of a government doesn't mean that you are a continuity of the ills of government, when in fact the records are there. Look at his history in Nima and what he's done for his people as far as infrastructural development, education initiatives, among several other things in the health sector in Nima County. So we're talking about a candidate who shares the vision of the Honorable Joseph N. Boakai, whose vision is very simple and very clear, Ashford. Every Liberian needs education. Every Liberian wants Liberia to become self-sufficient. Every Liberian wants a country that they can be proud of through tourism. Every Liberian, young or old, wants a Liberia that they can look back and say, I got a very good education from that country. We have very good health care. And certainly the Honorable Boakai represents those realities for the young and the old and the unborn, of posterity to come. So that reality about the change that we're waiting for is here now through the initiatives of the Honorable Joseph Boakai. Tolba was under Tupman for 19 years. Nobody knew about him much. Dr. Moneyba was under Doe for some years gone. Nobody knew him much. But when Tolba came to power, we saw the change. One of the most progressive liberal president Liberia had.
Dr. Fisk?
Yeah, you have two categories of legislators in Liberia. But they all share one thing in common, is that they are using the Constitution to loot the resources of Liberia. And those two categories of senators are one group that take the money and reinvest it in Liberia, and another group that take the money and spend it abroad, in the likes of this other guy who went and had a $90,000 wedding up in France. Okay, Mr. Kuhn represents one of those that other group of senators who've taken the looted money and using it to benefit his own people.
How did he take the looted money to use it to benefit his people? How did he do
that? The thing is, you need to ask yourself, what was his asset before he became senator? You know very well that these people take unrealistic pay. How is it in a country where you have people not able to get $1 a day or whatever, and you have legislators having the capacity to use $90,000 to have a wedding?
Well, looking at the story of Mr. Kuhn, he started from nowhere as a very little boy doing business. He started selling fish, And he also mentioned somewhere around 2003, when he was nowhere around becoming representative or senator, he was making anywhere from 10,000 United States dollars for that, and invested that money, and that's how he began building his wealth.
Mhm. So then we are supposed to believe that none of the excess money to the tune of hundreds of six figures in a country that's extremely poor by choice, that he's not using any of those money to continue to expand on what he already has, which is not realistic if you ask me. Because even Darius Dillon, when he came to power, one of those things he tried to do was to be a departure from that tendency to continue to loot from the Liberian people, and even he wasn't successful. So that whole clique of people and what they continue to do against the nation continues. Now, to be clear, that didn't start under George Weah. Okay, it started way back with Elling and the rest of it when the likes of Edwin Snow was speaker, and one of those things he was concerned about was to continue to incrementally target the increase of lawmakers' pay. Okay, but what I'm saying is that if there hasn't been a concerted effort on the part of these people to rein in themselves, so that like I was talking yesterday, and somebody asked me, what's the definition of patriotism? Patriotism means you are doing those acts that don't damage your own countrymen and women. Okay, when those people continue to have those unrealistic salaries, which makes them millionaires overnight, okay, and there's nothing said about it, and then what we are trying to do is now to go and elect those same people back to power, then we ask ourselves, what dedication would they have towards making the kind of changes that will that will bring about a complete socioeconomic vote phase within Liberia? I don't see it.
Idadus Ade, please help us understand, how did Jeremiah Kuhn get his money?
Ashford,
That the fix is on you. That the fix is on you, saying that Kuhn, in fact, got his money from his position as either representative or senator.
Right, I certainly will not exploit the innocence of Dr. Fisk on the record of Jeremiah Cohn and his business entrepreneurship over the years. This gentleman started selling gasoline. He owned several drugstores and pharmaceuticals. He helped build 116 clinics. As a matter of fact, he bought the land for the clinic before he joined the Senate in 2003, when he sold his hotel, sold his gas station, and built a 116-bedroom clinic for the people of Nimba. He was not in government when he did that. He ran those clinics. He ran that hospital or clinic for like 2 years and turned it over to government. He did similar initiative with schools that he's done for it. But I'll certainly forward the information to Dr. Fisk so he can read about this gentleman. And that is why the people of Nimba, his district, number one, keeps re-electing him from representative, now senator, because they respect him. He has a heart for the people, and he got his wealth from doing business. And that is why he's known as a business tycoon, so only building material stores, before he joined the Senate. I can certainly empathize with Dr. Fisk. There are individuals within our Liberian Senate who have corrupted the nation's finances, but not everybody happens to be the same. And Mr. Cohn stands out. And oftentimes he's joked by his friends, man, you came here rich, so sometimes don't try to stop what we're trying to do. There's the man that passed a bill in the Senate to ensure that government fosters and support vocational training school like the TVET in in Nimba today. So he's been working for the people. So the fact remains, he did not go to the Senate broke. He went to the Senate with assets. But I can certainly understand where Dr. Fisk, I empathize with his frustration over the corruption that he's heard about money and so forth and so on. But we're looking at an individual who's credibly earned his wealth and is serving the people, in fact, encouraged by his peers to serve his people because of what he was doing in the county.
Dr. Fisk?
Well, it would be all well said and done if we knew how he was using his current pay. So if we knew he was donating his pay to charity, because as a matter of principle, he understood that what he was earning was not commensurate with the performances in the legislature. Then of course then it becomes understood. Then we say, okay, it's not jaw, just talk, talk, talk. But this guy is putting action to his word. None of them. Okay, so which is why I said from the initial stages that this represents continuity and not change. Because why? You have the legislature has created a number of laws that relinquishes huge expenditures to themselves, okay, to the detriment of the entire nation. They have not created any laws that will curtail the massive importation of rice into Liberia, which continues to decimate Liberian farming. They have not curtailed they have not introduced laws that will curtail the massive importation of rice from India that continues to decimate Liberian farming. So, I mean, education, it's important to get the education, but you also need to understand that people don't just walk into schoolhouses and get education free. They need parents who need to have jobs to be able to send them to school. How many laws have these legislators created that would force the executive to take action so that you have massive employment in Liberia? Almost zero. Otherwise, we have heard about it. So for some reason, like someone said yesterday, opening factory require thinking. I don't know how much thinking you need to stand on a conveyor belt and rest guy in the bag, you close the bag and pack the rest in the corner. So these guys, I don't see any change. I see continuity. Unless, of course, you can show to me that Mr. Kuhn have been able to use his paycheck to do something that is a departure from what the rest of them are doing.
Yes, Usade, I want you to come in, then we'll go to the telephone line.
Right. So right. So here is the difference. Factory is not just the only means by which you create jobs. Jeremiah Kuhn had several businesses, still runs several businesses in Liberia, and that alone has created jobs. You know, in the Senate, he's championed the bill, you know, that currently has a vocational school. He's put several students on scholarship of 150 to 200. Currently, as I speak to you, Dr. Fisk, he has 3 students on international scholarship pursuing the master, one pursuing a bachelor's degree. So I'm talking about somebody who has dedicated his entire life, just at the age of 45, to helping his people, such as investment in building markets in parts of Ganta and Nima County. So, you know, I'm not selling to you a candidate because of political reason. I was able to research this gentleman and was quite surprised that there are Liberians yet in our country who has a heart for the people. So I can certainly understand that there are some senators who have been elected that do not represent the people wisely. But this gentleman happens to be a doer and not a talker. You know, someone who would give up his business enterprise to build a hospital for a suffering population of 116 bedrooms. And just not only that, invest in schools like the J.W. Pearson, where he took it from elementary to junior high, from junior high to high school, and added 6 classes to them in his county, you know, Wenwuru and other areas. I'm talking about someone who is well vested in his people, who has actually gone in the legislature to do what he's been assigned to. On the issue of his pay, don't forget his pay is his personal money. It's not the role of legislators to use their personal pay on individuals, but he is so selfless and has been able to do that for his people. You know, I'll certainly forward you much of the information for your occurrence so that you can kind of follow. So on the issue of corruption, is certainly a plight in Liberia, and as a people, we must work to eliminate that issue from our government. But don't forget that it's a separate but equal branch of government, and there are several other legislators there. So the broad paintbrush that you are using may have a perception of corruption on everybody, but that's not true for everybody within the Senate. There are some good people, and he happens to be one of them.
Okay, Idatus, I will ask you this question, and then I'll circle back to Dr. Fisk. 1998, Jeremiah Kuhn was in the 3rd grade. When he got in the 4th grade, he started his own business, and for the first time rented a room. Just the last Friday, he said to the world that he was sad and happy at the same time. Did he know that he was one day going to become a politician?
Well, not really, but I'll tell you this. He graduated from LU as the president of his class, the student leader. I mean, not LU Cuttington, rather. as the head of his class, president. So I believe he may not have realized this, but because of his leadership ability, his friends saw that in him. And sometimes visions are born when people see who you are. And that inspiration may have encouraged him to do so. So, for just a young man selling, fish on his head, sleeping in the canoe of a stranger who finds him and takes him indoors and then starts working with this Ghanaian national and selling fish from the, fish that he'll throw away and sell around to have the passion for business. He has a very telling story. As I watched him share, it brought tears to my eyes. And I was very moved, for a young man whose parents were lost during the war, one in Guinea, one in, they had to go look for his father and his mother, but yet had the vigor to, to move through those difficult times of our civil war and yet become successful selling cane juice, gas, among several other things. So he has quite a moving story. And at that very young, youthful age, I can imagine, and still having a passion for education is something that is quite telling.
Dr. Fix, has anything changed in your classification of Mr. Kuhn?
Nothing. I mean, because like the pastor said, all of them continue to receive these extravagant salary, and no one has made an exception. Okay, so I mean, it's like some kind of clique, right? So you have everyone, all of the participants continue to participate, and then out of a group of individuals who all share the same common bond, one of them emerges to be the vice president of uh, um, for a candidate who was also part of this same kind of arrangement for 12 years. And then we want to sit here and say that there's going to be some kind of change. What kind of change? As someone who pays school fees in Liberia for my kids, I can tell you one of the most lucrative jobs, and it looks like it's selfless, is to create school. If I want to make money in Liberia, one of those things I need to do is just go create some school, because people's children are being charged extravagantly in those schools. I can tell you that. So for every class, those people are counting how many thousands of dollars they are getting. So school in Liberia is one of those ventures that's self-sustaining just because those people continue to take from the parents. So what I've argued is that while school is important, we need to understand that we need to empower the people who send those children to school. So if you have a bunch of jobless people, you continue to create school, then of course you in the short run you are creating a disservice. And just to rebut what Reverend Adi talked about when he talked about factories, no one is suggesting that factory is the only means by which you can engage in public sector employment. But we have to understand factory is the way by means you can do massive employment, because you are now collaborating with, as in the case of agro industry, you're now cooperating, you're now incorporating local farmers into that process, or trying to do those things that you can then use to feed the country, you can then use to increase the currency and the rest of it.
Well, folks, if you're just joining us, this is ASHFORD GARLEY live on British Radio Africa. We want to take our play down to the people, the number to call, just in case you want to be a part of the conversation. The number is 267-248-5295. Let us go to the telephone line. We see that call here from Minnesota. The last four digits of your number, 7242. Please tell us your name.
How you doing, Mr. Garland? This is Elvis calling from Minnesota.
Elvis, how you doing? Better than good. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello to the Reverend and Dr. Fitz. Quickly, I just wanted to tell the Reverend, since I was compelled to call, so let the added know, since he's a man of God, I'll ask him to pray. So God will reveal Jeremiah Cohn's true character to him, maybe through a vision or through a dream. But let me just say this. I have families in Ganta. I have people in Ganta who knows Jeremiah Cohn very, very well. Maybe Pastor Ade don't know about the hospital that he built.
Hello, Elvis? Hello? We lost him. We lost him right there. Hello, caller. Hello. Hello, caller. 701 number. Hello.
Yeah, yeah, Ashford, thank you for having me. I'm calling from my comfort in North Dakota. My name is Boy Master.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
That Pastor Ade, thank you for your explanation about Jeremiah Cone. You couldn't have said it better. This man came from this rescue tool came from a humble beginning, and his upbringing and the struggle to become what he is today. So I just want to tell you thank you for the explanation. Yeah, thank you so much. Joe Baka, we believe in GNB that he's gonna rescue our country with the VP pick, and we want to encourage everyone on board to remain steadfast, and we're gonna rescue this country.
Thank you.
So again, thank you for having me.
All right. 7242 Evans, if you are the one, sorry, the phone dropped. Go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I just want to make that point clear that we know Jeremiah Cone, we know his character. People who live amongst him, the people who live with him know what he's done. He used that little boy's body for money ritual, and he settled with that boy's family. It's a well-known fact in Nema County. His wife, who he married to, when he married that woman, mind. The daughter that he born is not in the right state of mind. So, Pastor Ade, being a pastor, this is not a character that you really want to associate with. People who know Jeremiah Cone knows the kind of dealing that he's a part of. This guy, what they say, there's smoke, there's fire. He's a part of some shady and devilish dealings that got him to where he is today. It's not just purely by hard work.
Thank you.
So we who knows him, we know what he's made of. So thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, Elvis. Okay, we have a 763 number, the last 4 digits of your number, 7942. Please tell us your name.
Hello.
Hello, tell us your name, please.
Oh, my name is Herbert. I'm calling from Minnesota.
Herbert, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I have 2 parts question for the about people talking about, people got beautiful story. Granted, I can care less because if president we have had a beautiful story, look where the country is. So I can care less about people's stories. So my question to you, Pastor, is this man you talk about who supposed to represent Rescue One, okay? Everything I've been hearing about whatever he's done it for his county. Granted, it's good. But what has he put forward to help the Liberian people on the floor? Okay, that's one part of my question. The second part of my question, if Boycott becomes president, his first 100 days, what plans does he have for the Liberian people hitting the ground running? Because remember, the country is in a mess. Okay, like an example, when Barack became president, America was going through a recession. So what plans do they have for the first 100 days to put Liberia back on course? Now, I won't use the term back on course, but to help Liberia at least get from where it is moving forward. Thank you.
Sound like my classmate Herbert Fisk. Are you Herbert Fisk?
Yes, sir.
It's been a long time, my brother. Okay, we have Anthony Gay on the line from Wyoming. Hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm very constrained to call, and my question and statement will be directed strictly to the pastor. I hope the pastor will take a spiritual role and pray for Jeremiah Cone, but to be his surrogate on the show, I think will put it in a spot. But here's what I have to say to you, Pastor. Jeremiah Cone may have a good story. Everyone off in Liberia, including George, we have a fine story. But can you recall that Jeremiah Cone voted and ratified the Eton and Iboma loan, and we all know where that loan ended. The Eton and Yvonne Malone in 48 hours. Whether he took time to read the details about, I don't know, but he signed it. You're part of those people who voted for it later on when George Weah became president. He also voted for some part of the 66 bogus concession deal during the Ellington when he came as a representative. There's the same Jeremiah Kuhn who voted 99.9% of the time as a senator alongside with CDC until 5 months to this election when he's now named VP running mate to Joseph Yimon Boaka. Where is the change is he bringing to the dynamics of the Liberian people?
Thank you.
Lastly, his clinic, he's currently receiving subsidy from the Liberian government. If you want documentation, Mr. Garley, you will have that documentation. So it's not free.
Please do. Please fill it in. Thank you so much. Okay, we have 267 number, the last 4 digits of the number, 2664. Tell us your name, please.
This is Thomas Shapolo from media.
Okay, go ahead with your question, statement.
This is Thomas from media PA.
Okay, go ahead. Make your point, sir.
Yeah, my question is, as Liberians living in the US, we can continue to live. Yeah, we can continue to live like this. We pray that Joseph Boaka should be the rightful leader that will have our transform our country. Where I can live here and go Liberia and see life okay. It's not about who should be president or vice president or who should do the right thing for our country, for our people benefit. Do we expect another country, another president that will come and see child 13 years old, 14 years old being raped? Or for child who mother carry for 9 months, body being dumped on the street? There is no security. There is no hospital. There is no school. Look at the education system. Those are things we should be talking about. Question Joseph Boaka and Jeremiah Kuhn. The church should be able to transform Liberia that we all will be proud of. But the whole president, representative, senator, people look at it as a personal gain and forget about other people. The people are suffering.
The transformation of Liberia that we should all be proud of. Thank you so much. We have for a 905 number, the last 4 digits of your number, 0180. Tell us your name, please.
Hi, my name is Jonette, and I call from Canada.
Welcome to the show, Jonette. You're live on the radio.
Thank you. First of all, let me just say, maybe they should start off the humble beginning story because we heard that with George Weah, and here we are today. Secondly, Mr. Kuhn has been in the Senate. What is the record? And third, can we clearly say that Joseph Boaka can go on the record for saying we will have war and economic crimes in Liberia with his state? Can he go on the record for that? Because that's something we need. With everything that's going on in Liberia now, we can't just punish those that are looting like what they're getting from the government. We should also be able to punish those that participated in the war. So can we clearly say with this CPP, we will have that happening in Liberia? And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. And at this time, before going to Pastor Ade, we want to welcome Mrs. Letty Brooks Roberts to the show. I know you were doing some behind the scenes work that for the entity, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Garley. Thank you to my fellow panelists.
Okay, Mr. Ade, whole bunch of these.
Well, thank you so much. I want to tell all of the callers thank you, and all of their concerns are very valid. Let me start with the last caller who is concerned as to whether or not the Honorable Vice President Joseph Boaka has called for war crimes court. That is a resounding yes. He is committed to war crimes court, and he's told the whole world that he's open to war and economic crimes court. It is important to understand that we are telling you about Jeremiah Cummings not as a saint. He's a human being. He's not perfect. But in the context of what we've had as leaders in the past and a true Liberian story, he might be very unique than that of your current president, George Weah. and it's only fair that you will give him a chance. Many Liberians did not know that he did such a thing. So this is about probably the first time you are hearing a story of a very successful Liberian businessman who did not acquire his wealth by chance, but rather by hardship and investment in his people. As far as whether his wealth was ill-gotten, I have no indications regarding that. His story is a reflection of somebody who's been hardworking, who's gained his wealth through blood, sweat, and tears to make it and become successful. And certainly, I will pray for him as one of the members of one of the callers recommended as a pastor. I certainly will pray, as well as for George Weah to do the right thing, as well as for Joseph Imam Boyka to do the right thing. That is my utmost duty. We don't discuss these issues from a place of antagonism, tribalism, but from a place of patriotism and nationalism. In as much as I may differ with President George Weah substantially, I do not hate him. I think he's represented Liberia well, sports-wise. He's a decent Liberian, a human being, and I believe he loves this country. He's just not able to lead us in the trajectory we are anticipating. As far as Joseph Imam Boyka is concerned, the issue about his voting records and bills that he's passed, let me let you know that he's on the record for championing the bill called the TVET that led to government funding vocational institutions that will target students who are learning career-based courses that will change their lives in the world today. And certainly I can understand the backlash from what happened with the different concessions that have been signed in the Senate, beginning with Madam Shirley, the Igbo map loan and all of that. Liberians understood that our senators did the wrong thing, and he's not exempted from that. As an humble man, he's quite frankly on the record admitting that there are some things that we can change better in the Senate. He's advocated several things to include, a bill that was passed in the House of Representatives that would allow Liberian dollars to become the standard currency, that if you come into the country, as you would travel to Ivory Coast or Ghana, you will use the Ghanaian cedi throughout the length and breadth, and you will change the US dollars at the bank. He's passed a bill that passed in the, he championed a bill rather that passed in the House of Representatives, but has not yet been passed in the Senate. So he's been working. I'm talking about someone who is a doer, not a talker. And, is he perfect? No. Am I selling you someone who is going to do miraculous things? No. Liberia needs very heavy lifting. And certainly that is why the vision of the Honorable Joseph Boyka encompasses all of the dreams and aspirations of our desires. And I totally understand Liberians are frustrated. We've been used to mediocrity for a very long time. All we're asking for a united front to trust this administration for the change we can believe in. And hopefully we'll find ourselves in a wholesome functioning society in the words of President William R. Talbot the late.
Well, Dr. Fisk, despite the support for Jeremiah Combe and, of course, the head of the ticket, Jose Yuma Boyka by Pastor Ade, we've just received mixed reactions from the callers. What say you?
I mean, that's politics. You always receive a mixed reaction, right? And someone was even suggesting that most of the callers are from ANC. You look, see it this way. There are not many people that can disagree. There are not many Liberians who are not proud of George Weah's soccer career. I'm one of those. I'm extremely proud of George Weah's soccer career. I saw George Weah playing one time, okay, and I was bought and sold. But that's soccer, okay? So I'm saying this to say that when you maintain a very good integrity, people will not question your integrity. There are a lot of people who would run to be president today that their integrity would not be questioned because they have very good integrity. Okay, let me give an example. I mean, I'm not a fan of his, but Mr. Cummings, I'm not an ANC supporter. I'm not Mr. Cummings supporter. So I have to say that I have to put that disclaimer. I have to put that disclaimer up first, and I have problem with the fact that Mr. Cummings spoke disparagingly against people of the Congo tribe. Okay, that notwithstanding, you don't hear much corruption talk with Cummings. What people talk about is that he's arrogant and Coca-Cola and some news about his social lifestyle and the rest of it. But as people would say, where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay. And in my view, okay, there may be a lot of things I don't know about Kun. So let me stick to what I know. The legislature is a hotbed of corruption in Liberia. The presidency is a hotbed of corruption. The executive branch of government is a hotbed of corruption in Liberia. The court system has become corrupt just because of the infusion of politics into the court system in Liberia. Okay, so if you put all of these things together, and then you add the fact that Mr. Bwaka has been part of that corrupt system for the last 12 years. I talk about the fact that the increment of salary within the legislature didn't start with George Weah. It started with the likes of Ellen. And when people like Edwin Snow was speaker, okay? But these people presided over that thing, especially Bwaka, for 12 years. Mr. Kun was there for the last, 5 to 6 years, drawing up salary. Now, if you tell me that Mr. Kun is a departure, then in the most significant way, I have to be convinced. In other words, where that unhealthy pay, that insensitive pay, as if to say they don't understand the living Liberia and the filth and the hospital problem and all of that. And if you cannot show me that Mr. Kun for the last 5 years has been donating his money to a charity of worth, you can't come back to me and convince me that Mr. Kun and Mr. Bwaka represent any kind of change.
But Dr. Fisk, with little or no research about Kun, you just stated that you don't know anything about him. And don't you think you should have waited until you've done a little research about him before coming out in the first place to just assume that he made his money from the government and at the same money he was using to build everything that he is building?
Oh, but the thing is, I also said that if he doesn't represent a departure from what has occurred, the unrealistic salary in Liberia has been around for some time, and it's a major, it's like the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. But that thing is crippling the country, it's killing the country to an extent that somebody can take 90,000 United States dollars and go have party in France, empower the people of France to the detriment of the people of Liberia. Okay, so it is disheartening to act as if to say the significant pay. So let's assume even if they're getting $20,000 monthly, every 10 months, that's $200,000. If you add an additional 2 months there, that's almost $250. That's $250,000 for one person. One person. Okay. The senator of Monserrado County, one of the senators, Sir Joseph, what he calls Sir Joseph, he has a school, right? Where did he get the money from to build the school? Up in the estate, that university or whatsoever. Okay, it's the same money. So that's what I'm saying. You have two categories of senators in Liberia, but all of them share one thing in common. All of them are using the constitutionally looted money. Okay, but but what makes where you have two, where there's a point of departure, is one group, they are taking the looted money to fix the country, other group are taking and putting it somewhere else. Whether they take the money and carry it somewhere else, whether they take it and reinvest it in the country, it's still corruption that's eating at the core of any idea to develop Liberia.
Thank you, that. Thank you, that. Before
Right.
we hold on, Stanik. Before we bring in Mrs. Roberts, I want to squeeze in Steve Buller. Steve Buller is from one of our sister radio stations here in the diaspora, and we're just bringing the chime in. Before that, we want to say happy belated birthday to Siada Tengba. Your birthday was on the 27th, I believe. Congratulations. Happy belated birthday. Mr. Mazola Gisi is joining us from Liberia Public Radio. Hello, Mazola. Hope all is well with you. Steve, you're live on the radio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, ASHFORD GARLEY, the giant. As always, it's good to be here. As always, I want to reference the Liberian people as the most important people on earth. But most importantly, I believe the Liberian women are the most beautiful women, and none of your panelists over there can debate that fact, or they'll be held in contempt. I think we have two of the representation of the best of Liberia tonight, as guests or as panelists or contributors, however you want to term it. I want to say thanks to both of them for their contribution, not forgetting, the only female on there with us tonight. She's doing a wonderful job as well for keeping us in check, all of us. But it's important that since we have two of the best, one represents religion in Liberia and one represents the educational system in Liberia, which play a key factor fundamentally to our growth and development as a nation. So this argument that has been presented by Reverend Ade, I think it's a good argument. Also, the argument presented by the doctor is a good argument. However, it's important that as we get towards election, we start the issue of accountability. And if you don't know something, it's okay for us to say we don't know, but for us to bring people as they are, saviors or whatever it is. Let me agree with the doctor. Let me substantiate something really quick because we got to speak with facts. The Centennial reports came out in 2021, just most recently. And the Centennial stands for Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, and they work with Transparency International. They provide most of our reports in terms of accountability and so forth. This is what it states. Let me corroborate something that the doctor said before I come to Jeremiah Cone. On Senator Sir Joseph, listen to what it says. I'll read here. Our Centennial report, quote, said, Montserrat Senator Sir Joseph in 2020, as chairman of the Senate Health Committee, annually allocated $144,000 to his company for ambulance services. That's corruption. They are corrupt. Sir Joseph is corrupt. This particular report indicts him. But let's move forward to Jeremiah Kun, who has been presented as, coming from the suffering masses, and he amalgamated his worth from on the ground. Let's see what the report says about Sir Joseph. And for the record, I sent a report to you, ASHFORD GARLEY, because it's important for us to hold people accountable. It gives us a print of the future. It gives a print of what you guys will do. Let's see what it says about Senator when he was Representative Kun. And for the record, Representative Kun was the vice chair. He was the vice chair to Thomas Fala. They were responsible for all the budget passing in Liberia. And I will send you a recording also for you to prior send it to the Reverend. Maybe he should listen to it to inform his decision about what Prince Johnson corroborates about Senator Kun being corrupt and a criminal. But let me read this report. Let me read this part. Listen to what it says. The report said between 2012, between 2012 to 2021, Nima County Representative Jeremiah Kun received nearly $1 million United States dollars to run private-owned hospital, the Esther and Geraldine Hospital in Nima County. Well, I will leave it with the Reverend if he still believes that Jeremiah Kun came from the grassroots and he suffered to make his money.
Steve,
I will leave it with Liberian people and we'll go from there. Thank you so much,
Steve, I
ASHFORD,
want to
as
thank
we follow
you.
the show.
Find a time to come on the platform and interact with Dr. Fisk and Pastor Ade one of these days, okay?
Oh, yes, most definitely. I'll reach out to you to coordinate the timing. Thank you so much.
Okay, let me now bring in Mrs. Letty Brooks Roberts so she can weigh in here. Then we'll go to Pastor Ade. We'll extend the time a little bit, the extra half an hour, as Reverend Ade requests. He does a fine job. He just told me after I'm sending in $100 just to run the show for
Really?
go ahead, Mrs. Roberts.
Yes, thank you, my fellow panelists. Thank you for a great conversation. I did try to look up Jeremiah Kun, and what I saw from from one of the papers, I didn't read everything in its entirety, and I also did hear from the station Steve comes from, SKTV, last week, where a gentleman came on and corroborated the story he just talked about, that Jeremiah Kun, runs things in Nimba. He took some money from the guy or used his property, but I need to read more to speak on that. The excerpt I got from the Daily Observer of Liberia says, that he's from the MDR as a political leader, and he has threatened an ex-police officer over the $6,000 debt. So why that is might be simple to somebody, that's big when you are a representative of the country. And these people who call themselves, "Do you know who I am?" You can use someone's property or anything of someone, and then when it's time to pay them, you threaten their life or try to intimidate them. So just from this article, like I said, I have not read it in depth, but I have the headlines, and that comes from a credible newspaper in Liberia. So, we still have, like I said, we have a while to mend this, to talk about these characters or characteristics of these people that are, vying for the highest office of our country. You know, like someone says, we all have our butts. That's true, but as you have seen in the West, when someone vies for these high positions, their character is scrutinized. And so I don't think we're doing anything wrong by asking, who is this man? Not everyone has heard about him. So, yeah, they need to know who he is, what he stands for, and what kind of president or vice president he will be. Thank you for having me on the show. And I'm here to listen.
Dr. Nah, Pastor Adi.
Well, I certainly want to thank the brother who brought up the research concerning the money. He should make no mistake that the hospital was turned over to government and it was funded by government for that purpose for the people of Nema County. Don't forget that the government was also in a coalition with Nema County, MDR. So it's not unusual for senators to advocate for budgetary allotments for projects within the county. So yes, if that report references $1 million given to the hospital, don't forget that hospital was turned over to government to run. Similarly, when I listened to the Honorable Darius Dillon, he said this clinic I'm building for for Liberians who are referenced, quote unquote, Zogos, it's certainly open to government subsidy, and if government wants to take it over, they can take it over. So for political distraction, one may conclude or say that, oh, Darius Dillon received $2 million for his clinic or for his drug and alcohol rehab center. No, Darius Dillon will not be receiving $1 million for his clinic. Neither did Mr. Cohn receive $1 million personally for the funding of a clinic that will serve the people of Nimba. So let's be clear about the research. Secondly, he is not Sir Joseph, and he is not Acarius Gray that had $90,000 to have a wedding in France. One who came from poverty to now living a life of luxuries by means of government's wealth. Unlike Jeremiah Cohn, who earned his wealth from doing business and therefore stands at the side of Joseph Yuma Boyka, an humble man of integrity intended to see Liberia move in a different direction for the wholesome functioning welfare of the society. So there's a clear distinction between the two, the multiple personalities that we're trying to print here. I'm not giving to you a saint. I know he has flaws, Madam Brooks, in terms of his interactions with, fellow Liberians who, for different reasons may have seen the other side of him, but he's a human being and he's been through a lot. He's not a saint, people of Liberia. I'm not selling you a saint. Never will I do that. Not any of the political candidates that we have chosen to support in different ways, shape, or form. We were telling the Liberian people that they are a saint. No, we are just looking at their record and what they've done, and hopefully trusting that they will do it when they assume the helm of office. So let's be very clear. As a pastor, I'm very careful into whom I lend my support. I've looked up about this man, and I'm quite confident that hopefully you will represent the dreams and aspirations of the Liberian people and generations unborn as they chart the course of their incumbency.
Dr. Fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the New Dawn electronic print, and I just want to read an excerpt from one of their stories. And I read, in September 2019, a Liberian Senator, Darius Dillon, told a press conference on Capitol Hill that each senator makes a gross salary of $15,000 plus 29,700 Liberian dollars as basic salary, with 3,175 United States dollars for transportation reimbursement. Additionally, he said each senator makes 2,150 US dollar cash for gasoline, concluding that each of them walks away with about 12,000 US dollars after tax deduction, while a Liberian senator earned $183,900 gross salary. The American senator, for instance, earns only $174,000 annually. So you're looking at a situation where Liberia is going to beg the United States all the time for money. Liberian government is getting taxpayers' money from the United States in the tune of almost $60 million, according to the U.S. ambassador. While all of these things are happening, while we are having remittances from abroad, in addition to the salary cuts, we're sending remittances to relatives and friends and the rest of it. You have a legislature that is taking more money than the United States legislators. It doesn't make any sense. And these are it makes mockery out of the so-called democracy that we are supposed to have. You are going to beg people that you take more money than, okay? And the fact that these guys, America has a population of 300 million people. And America has an unemployment of less than 10%. Liberia has a population of 5 million people, but an unemployment of over 50%. Okay, so it tells you that these people are not doing their jobs. These people have not done their jobs. Okay, and somebody was saying, one of the viewers was saying, like, I should know my story. I should know my information before I present it out there. And the information I'm presenting centers around the activities of senators within the national legislature, which is open information, and everybody can have access to it. What I've maintained from the onset up until now is that Mr. Kuhn will have distinguished himself if we can now say that every time they were getting money that is constitutionally, people hiding behind statutory laws to loot the country, if he established himself as being distinct by taking that money and redirecting it towards something that for posterity purposes, it can be like, when the people are doing the stolen money thing, this is exactly what I use it for. Then now people can come and say, okay, fine, this guy is different. Like I said, for all intents and purposes, I'm not in favor of Mr. Cummings, especially when he made his extremely derogatory remarks against Congo people. But I can say that there have been accusations against Mr. Cummings. But one thing you don't hear is that this guy is corrupt. When you corrupt, Liberian people know you're corrupt. When you're not corrupt, they'll say you're not corrupt. I'm not a Cummings guy. Okay, we've not heard anything else when it comes to corruption with what's this lawyer name? The poor man lawyer. Wait, Ashford, help me. Tier 1 Gonglo. We've not heard any corruption news about Tier 1. Okay, there are other individuals who are wanting to run to be president. They don't have the traction yet. And we've not heard anything corrupt about them. So it's not to say the people are just picking on Mr. Kuhn, trying to find just about anything. No, he has been in an institution that is traditional to Liberian politics, the national legislature. And that organ is a hotbed of corruption. And he has been part of that narrative. So you cannot say that he represents any kind of significant change. Neither he nor Mr. Boakai. That's what I'm saying, and I maintain it.
So, Dr. Fix, by your standard, nobody will lead Liberia because corruption is highly endemic from the government to our people. And that is why sometimes you can be part of a system that is corrupt, but when you're given an opportunity to lead, change will genuinely come. And oftentimes, it is quite frustrating. I empathize with Liberians by and large, including yourself. We are all frustrated. We've had a government for years in, years out that has not fulfilled the dreams and aspirations of our people. But when the folks are given an opportunity to make a difference, you will definitely see the difference. Paul was a murderer. Paul was a murderer. Paul was Saul then, he was a murderer until God changed him. And he went back to the very people and he told them, I'm the Saul that persecuted all of you. And they didn't believe it. Everywhere he went, everywhere. Hold on, Dr. Fitz. Everywhere he went, he was flogged.
Let me hold you guys right there. Both Dr. Fitz and Reverend Adi. I want to play a very short recording that is 1 minute long, and I'll bring in Mrs. Letty Boo Roberts to ease up the tension a little bit. Okay, you guys stay put.
Okay.
Party. I have not come to the country to tell people, I suppose you know. Principally, I tell you this, to be too damn greater than good. We elected Jeremiah in 2017 up to 2023. Why does he want to move Tom Groupie, for example? Why does he want to contest against anybody, for example? You don't know me, scaring me. I'm a principle-minded person. So I told people, just go around the money you're not steal because he the ways and means deputy co-chair. And the ministry will come to defend the budget, they can pay to them. They got money, so let's spend it. Yes, I'll be bonny, my great, do a bonny, my own. So do a one side of MP, you fight me, you will fall. When Brenda about to try, you die. When Joko will try, you die. When there is you try, you die. When Don will be try, you cripple. Yes, further. I have a powerful God. Further. Yes. Jeremiah, who in my party. I have not come to the country.
The Reverend Idatu is added.
Excellent. Excellent tip. If you listen to Prince Johnson, you know, Ashford, I'm so glad you played that tip because that's Prince Johnson in his reaction to some type of opposition that Jeremiah Kun has given him. And he's saying, if you fight me, you will die. That's what Prince Johnson said. This is the man that the Liberian people believe is being controlled by Prince Johnson. And that is Prince Johnson on the record swearing that if Jeremiah stands up against him, he will die. He's greedy, he this, that, and the other. But this is Jeremiah Kun standing up against him. And to all of my wonderful detractors who are often referencing Prince Johnson as a credible witness against people, let us not forget that he's made several statements against all of the political candidates in the race. So there should not be anything strange. Prince Johnson just spoke against the Honorable Yombly Kanga and he apologized. Prince Johnson just spoke against Mr. Cummings. He's saying, listen, this guy is a very good man, but I will not say that on this platform. But, you know, so I'm so glad you played that tape because it just proves that Mr. Kun is independent as he's been independent from Mr. Johnson, who he's able to stand up to in the interest of the greater good of the country.
Is that how you see it, Dr. Fisk?
I know, right? That's exactly what my question is. Maybe you should replay that tape because I'm not sure how is that vindicating him or making him look better.
He just called him greedy. All right. And that tape says that he's in opposition to him and anybody who fights him will die. So the question becomes, though it's an excerpt, what is Jeremiah Kun fighting him against? That's the question.
That we don't know.
Excellent. So that is why we have to be careful with excerpts. But one thing is very certain in that tape is that Prince Johnson is angry that Jeremiah Kun is standing up against him. So thank you for playing that tape.
Let me bring in Dr. Fisk.
Yeah, you know, one thing about journalism is that is speculation is good when it's healthy, okay? But as much as possible, journalists try to stick to the facts, right? Because that's what we report. I say this to say, let's try to stick to what was said on the exit and forget about the speculation for another time. And let's not be the spokesperson of another person, okay? So what do we know for a fact about what the excerpt just said? What we know for a fact on that excerpt is that Mr. Prince Johnson accused Mr. Jeremiah Kun of being corrupt, okay, as working within a very corrupt system, as being able to use his position within that very corrupt system to aggrandize monies that could go towards the benefit of an entire country for himself, abrogate that money to himself. That's all we heard. So coming back to what the Reverend said, that according to my standard, no one would be able to run to be president. No, a lot of people will be able to run to be president. There are several problems facing Liberia, okay? And those problems are structural, but like our guest from yesterday, those problems are structural, but they are not historic. They are not structural in the sense as to be perceived as historical because they are contemporary. In other words, we have a democracy system that is like a beauty pageant. Okay, the person that's most popular carry the crown. So then we end up with Mr. Weah because of his soccer history. He was most popular and he became president. Okay, I say this to say that there are a number of people who don't have traction now, okay, and who may also want to run the race that have impeccable character. But because politics is what it is, it become a beauty pageant. Okay, the progenitors of politics and democracy, how they understood it was that the majority will identify what is good for the rest and make that selection. But that's not what is happening. So the beauty pageant thing is one problem. Another thing is that we are refusing as a nation to empower our institutions. The reason why America is in a successful country and many other Western countries is not because of personalities, but it's because these people respect the institutions and try to live according to the laws of the institution. So if those two things can be allowed to function properly, you won't be seeing the likes of Joseph Barker. It won't be an alternative between Mr. George Weah, who is a placeholder and has practically done nothing for Liberia, and Mr. Joseph Barker, who spent 12 years in the government that is fucking Liberian people. And then now he's coming back wanting to get another mandate from the same people he's been taking from in conjunction with Mr. Kuhn, who are also being in the same corrupt institution.
Thank you. Thank you, lady. Thank you, gentlemen. Tom has caught up with us. We'll take our last commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll be closing statements. Stay tuned.
Di Lorenzo, G Grace, Hems vocal, Liberia number one vocal, Liberia number one, right? Okay.
The phrase, a new sheriff is in town, does not only belong to law enforcement. How about the introduction of Liberia's premier vodka, a quality and customized liquor for all occasions? Try the flavor of your choice. Hems Vodka, Hems Honey, Hems Bitter, and Hems Original Vodka. Hems Vodka has no hangover. That's why they say Papa drink Mama happy. Hems Vodka is sold in all stores, shops, supermarkets, and entertainment centers in Liberia. For wholesale, contact Hems Vodka at 0777 001114, 0777 000 We can also be reached via social media on Facebook and IG at Hems Vodka or www.hensvodka.com. In the United States, please contact Hems North America Incorporated at 610-543-9289, 484-888-1622, 484-755-8411. Hems Vodka is approved by the U.S. federal government. Hems Vodka brings out the real man in you.
I tell you in my boy, in my blood, every time when I say.
And that's right, folks. If you just joining us, this is ASHFORD GARLEY live on Brace Radio Africa. This program comes your way Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays on Brace Radio Africa. Please tell friends, relatives, and loved ones to welcome them. Please don't forget to subscribe to the page, both on YouTube and Facebook. Before we do our closing statements, I want to bring in, squeezing our last caller, who is Uncle Pete, the man of all counties. Uncle Pete, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Ashley, how are you?
My name is Ashford, not Ashley.
ASHFORD GARLEY.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. I want to thank you all for the show, for the information you guys try to disseminate to the Liberian people. The dissemination of information is very vital in any society. But in disseminating the information, we should be cautious not to mislead the Liberian people. I listened to some callers being curious, out of curiosity. They want to know in the Bwaka government where there will be war and economic crime court. And a gentleman there that I have great respect for, one of your panelists, He said, yes, there is war economic crime code is possible if Joseph Boakai is elected as president. I say he's definitely misleading the Liberian people. Under no condition in the government, if it's possible to be elected by Joseph Boakai with Jeremiah Kuhn, who was influenced, giving and handpicked and delivered to Joseph Boakai by Prince Johnson. It is impossible. You cannot even fool the international community, neither the Liberians, that under the administration of Jeremiah Kuhn and Joseph Boakai, that will be war and economic crime code. It will be impossible. Every decision made in the Boakai government with Jeremiah Kuhn being vice president, Prince Johnson will be consulted. Prince Johnson will play an eminent and prominent role in it. And as you know, the Americans have told us not to do business with those that is sanctioned. But Joseph Boakai will be doing business with one that being sanctioned by the American government. So under no condition that anyone can mislead the Liberian people here, the international community, that Joseph Boakai government with his president, mayor elected, vice president, that will be war economic crime code in Liberia. It will be very, very impossible. So please, sir, I respect you. I listen to your utterances. They are all authentic, but that one, for you to say that will be war economic crime code in Liberia, you are misleading the Liberian people and the international community. So that's what I got to say, Uncle Pete, the man for all the counties.
Thank you, Uncle Pete. And well, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid this is all the time we have to be with you.
Can I respond to Uncle Pete bias? Stanley.
hold on, Stanley. Before you respond to him, we have a question here for you from Moses. He said, here's my question for United. Will he be fair for the government to add on the report of indictment of Jeremiah Cohn like it was done to Brandon Samuka? And then you can respond to Uncle Pete and close us out on your end.
Well, absolutely. Liberia must be a nation of law, but we already have a government that has questionable corruption and is bringing an indictment of corruption that remains the judgment of the Liberian people. So let's be very clear. The government can also bring an indictment charge against Mr. Cummings, Mr. Gonglo, or anybody within the race for political reasons. So yes, does the government has that power to do so? Absolutely. But will it be doing it in the interest of the transparency of justice becomes another issue. To our most respected Uncle Pete, you spoke to a futuristic declaration that Joseph Boakai made, but yet certain that it will not be possible without any fact or proof. Mr. Boakai is on the record. The Honorable VP is on the record stating that he's open to war crime court. In fact, it was even rumored that is precisely why he was never giving the presidency when he contested, because he's one of those, among many, like Brumsking, Mr. Uri, who when contested the 2017 elections were very bent on the war crime court issue. And therefore, that was not a selling point for the transition of power. That's in the rumor mill as well. So let's be very clear. I certainly respect your assertiveness and your certainty, but it's futuristic void of fact. Boakai is on the record that he's open to a war crimes court. And I'm not here to defend Prince Johnson. I'm here to speak about Jeremiah Cohn. I'm not telling the Liberian people something that he hasn't done. The facts are there. Ask the people of Nimba. And that is why they keep re-electing him to represent them and now as their senator. So what I'm stating is not a fabrication, a misrepresentation of the fact. Liberians are very smart people. They are able to research and make up their own decision. The question was asked, who is Jeremiah Cohn? And I told you a story, not fabricated at all, concerning his life's experiences with his upbringing, his pursuit of business, his family, his faith as a man who loves the Lord as well. And whether or not he's a ritualistic person, I don't know that, as the other caller speculated. And I just told the story of a man that not many Liberian people know, and which, of course, deserves the right to know. Unfortunately, most of our senators don't have their profile expressed to the public for us to read. But it's good to do a research on this individual. And, for those who are doubting the clergy nature of my calling, I think it's fair, to doubt that. We're in a political season. And therefore, I'm certainly open with these misguided suspicions. It's quite fair enough. Liberians are tired. They're fed up. They're frustrated. And they need genuine change. So I have no issues with their questions. They are very fair questions. And certainly, the Honorable Ambassador and the potential VP will be able to answer these questions as they face the Liberian people from one platform to another. This is the reality. So I can understand how they feel. It's frustrating. They need change and change now.
Is that your closing statement, Reverend?
Oh, I can certainly make my no, I can certainly make my closing. Thank you. So to you, my fellow Liberians, I know we're in very difficult times. To those in the opposition camp, I encourage you to let's have a substantive debate. Let's not insult our president, our current president. Let's focus on the issue. George Weah is not our enemy. His policies are the enemy. So let's have these spirited debates with passion and be able to tell the Liberian people so that they can make informed decisions concerning the life and death movement come October 10th for national elections. To all those who are on different sides of the camp, let us make our debates very substantive. Let us continue to preach the politics of inclusion, not divide. Let us preach the politics of reconciliation intended to build Liberia as we think Liberia, love Liberia, and build Liberia. Thank you.
And you cleverly try to put a spin on that recording there where we heard Prince Johnson accusing Jeremiah Kun of being corrupt. You did that so well.
Well, Prince Johnson has accused everybody. The last time I checked, he's accused everybody. He's accused George Weah, he's accused Ellen, he's accused Alexander Cummings, and now he's once upon a time accused Mr. Kun, but now supporting Kun. So, hey, he's accused everybody.
The Reverend Idatus added making his presence felt tonight, as usual, on the ASHFORD GARLEY Live, folks. Let us now go to Dr. James Fisk as he responds to the callers and then give his closing statement.
I mean, I would just combine all two.
Okay.
In jest. Okay. In other words, jokingly stating. Okay. That's the in jest. George Weah really got a strong medicine man. Okay. Because with all seriousness, so now the jest is over. In all seriousness, if you listen to the cross spectrum of Liberians and their interaction, you would think that Joseph Boakai is already president and Mr. Cummings is an opposition trying to unseat Mr. Boakai, who is the incumbent. When in fact, the incumbent is Mr. George Weah, who is so reckless with the country that even now, as we speak, with all the dirtiness, with all the joblessness, with all the unsolved killings and all that kind of stuff, he's going to UK to go sit among, because for him, presidency is and will continue to be ceremonial. Just go and shake hand and drink and go take selfie with people.
Yeah, he's in Ghana tonight, spending some time with Jackie Appiah before
exactly
for the UK.
Exactly. And then you when you hear Liberians talking, you think George Weah way somewhere. So a lot of something that Melissa Murphy hiding George Weah from all the Liberian people right now. No, it's like he doesn't even exist until maybe at election time. People find themselves waiting for this guy becoming president, because why? It's like the story about the turtle and the rabbit, or whatsoever the race were going on, and the rabbit said that the turtle too slow. Let me sit down and watch TV. While the rabbit were watching TV, the turtle can't won the race. That is what Liberians are doing. And at the end of the day, after Mr. Weah have won the election, then at the time they will come back and now start to squabble among themselves after they've gotten nothing. So we have to be very cautious. Yesterday, we had people coming on this very program and saying that they think that the opposition had nothing to offer. No, the opposition is just have not decided to do their work yet, and they still have time. Your government has had 6 years to do something in the interest of Liberian people. Like I said yesterday, Liberian people gave George Weah a job for 5 years. How many jobs have George Weah given them in return? If they cannot answer that question, why the squabbling between Cummings and Boakai? It makes no sense. It's stupid. It needs to stop. First thing first, before you decide to argue over how to divide the pie, you first need to obtain the pie. You don't have the pie. You're arguing over something that's in the air. It make no sense. People, you come to yourselves. You people, that's why you started this whole thing by talking about unity. Structurally, it's going to be impossible for you to have a structural unity of all of these people because they all come with different ideas, but they can all have unity around a common messaging. And the messaging is this: we have had 6 years of incompetence. We have had 6 years of political placeholding. Liberia needs to change. And the best Liberians can do is to vote anyone other than we are. Mind you, if the opposition are able to coalesce around that messaging, the opposite is going to happen. In other words, George Weah would not even see the first round because everybody will be focusing on any other person other than Weah. And I think that's a sensible way to approach these elections. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Letty Brooks Roberts, somebody was asking for the location of the church, but you give the location as you close us out in the prayer before we go home tonight. Mrs. Roberts, your closing statement.
Yes. Please be careful on giving his information because we want to know for what reason they want to know his address. But in closing, I want to say good evening. Thank you to our viewers and our participants, those that called in to lend their view. We appreciate you. We also have our Cash App. Please support Rich Radio Africa as we endeavor to do other things, as in bring out more information coming from the homeland. But as I close, I just want to say the fact that Prince Johnson always comes out to talk about people. He's very cunning because I feel he comes out when he doesn't have his way with you. So now we have Jeremiah Cohn aligning with him. Who knows? Is it because of what his talk against him? We, as Pastor Ade pointed out, we see him come against people, but the key thing I see in his coming against is always to shame you when he doesn't have his way. So people should be careful that try to, lay in bed, for lack of a better word, with Prince Johnson, because he's very cunning and he's double-minded. He doesn't care, But lastly, I would like to say, please, Liberians, please, my fellow Liberians, we have an alternative. And we're not going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. Why my choice is, I've said it on this show, but people are saying to us, this person is not experienced, or this person has never been in government, or this person is too young, or this person is new on the block. When you look for someone to choose, you're not going because they're popular or they've been in government so long. You're looking for what do they offer you. I haven't worked. I'm 50 and I haven't had a job. Who will give me a job? Who sounds like they know what they would do to turn things around? I have never had a refrigerator. Who will bring a light? I have never even sat in a regular bathroom. As the joke goes, during the war, the Nimba people came in and they started drinking out of the toilet because they thought it was a place where the water was so clean, they thought it was a place to drink from. Why should you have lived all your life and still be in this predicament, and then your children come back to do the same? No, poverty is not our portion. Yes, we all come from humble beginnings, but that doesn't mean we should stay humble the rest of our life, as in filth, unsanitized environment, no food. Why should I get up in the morning and just wait and pray for God to make a way? Of course, God makes a way, but that's not how it should be. He said we should help ourselves and he will help us. I thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. Until we meet again on Friday, do support Breach Radio Africa. Thank you, Mr. Garley. Good night, my fellow panelists.
And the guy asking for the pastor's church is a good friend of ours, Mazola Gisi. As a matter of fact, he runs a show on the Liberia Public Radio, so we've come a long way. At this point, Reverend Adi, please close us out in the prayer. You won a soul tonight. Maybe following the prayer, you might win more souls.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this time of exchange. We know how hurt Liberians are and how much we all love our country for the better. Give us a heart of peace, a heart of forgiveness, a heart of reconciliation. Even though we discuss here tonight, our thoughts are limited to what you have in store for us, O God. But we stand on this truth that you are able to give us a leader after your own heart, because all authority comes from you. We thank you for being faithful to the long-standing cries of Liberians by and large, that we need a leader after your own heart. And we thank you for that leader. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and give you peace. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
And some
Amen.
people, and according to the wise man, some people come into your life for a reason and others come for a season. You have to make a decision. When the season is over, somebody's opinion of you should not be your reality. Tough times don't last, tough people do. The heart of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. The mastermind, the golden voice of radio, the medicine of the microphone, Africa's media do extraordinaire. He doesn't eat iron. He's definitely stronger than the lion. As for the giant, and now you know me.